The kitchen smells like iron and ginger. You notice this the first time they walk you through the service corridor, the underground artery connecting the Ryongsong residence's preparation rooms to the dining hall. Fluorescent lights hum above stainless steel countertops that cost more than your father earned in a lifetime. The air is cold and still, the way air gets when no one is allowed to leave a room carelessly. You are not a chef. You are not a soldier. You are not anyone. 3 weeks ago you were working a mid-level administrative post in Pyongyang's Ministry of Food Distribution, a position you received because your uncle knew someone who knew someone. You stamped supply requisitions. You came home on time. You kept your opinions where opinions belong in this country, buried. Then Senior Director Choi watched you reject a plate. It was a state dinner rehearsal. A minor official's birthday. You were there to verify portion records. The test dish came out, braised abalone in soy reduction, a garnish of chrysanthemum, and something in your face changed before you could stop it. Your nostrils tightened. You set the fork down. Choi was watching from the doorway. You didn't see him. He saw everything. The summons comes 4 days later. Black car. No driver introduction. You ride for 40 minutes without knowing where north is. They tell you the role in a room with no windows. Personal taster. The marshal's table. Permanent assignment. You feel your stomach drop the way it does on the edge of something you cannot walk back from. Your hands are flat on the table and you make sure they don't move. You nod. You say yes. There is no version of this conversation where you say no. Outside, somewhere in the city, your old life is already being packed away without you. Here is what they do not tell civilians about food at this level. The kitchen operates in 3 concentric rings. The outer ring handles produce verification, every item logged, photographed, tested for contamination by a state chemist with a face like a closed door. The middle ring is the preparation staff, 12 chefs, each cleared individually, each knowing only their section of the meal. No chef sees the full menu. This is deliberate. Compartmentalization is the architecture of survival here. You are the inner ring. The last ring. The one that matters. Your job is simple on paper. Before the marshal eats, you eat. You taste each dish, a measured amount, recorded in a logbook that is stored in a safe you do not have the combination to. You initial the page. You wait. The wait is always 11 minutes. This is the window the medical staff have calculated for symptomatic onset of the most common contact agents. 11 minutes is a long time when you are sitting alone in a white room with nothing but a glass of water and a wall clock. You eat fine things. Kobe Wagyu flown in from Japan through third country channels. A particular brand of French cheese that no one in North Korea is supposed to know exists. Fresh tuna from a fish market in Busan, delivered via a route you will never be cleared to know. The food is extraordinary. It tastes like nothing. Your mouth processes flavor but your mind is always running the same subroutine. Is this the one? Is something wrong? Does anything feel different today? You never tell anyone this. You go home, to the apartment they've assigned you inside the compound, and you sit on the edge of your bed and breathe through your nose until the quiet stops feeling like a threat. The burden is not the poison you might eat. The burden is the performance. Every day you must sit down and look completely unafraid. And every day you do. Because the alternative is not discussed in this building. By month 4, you have a routine. 5:15 a.m., compound gymnasium, 30 minutes. Not because you want to. Because being strong is the closest thing to control you have left. 6 a.m., breakfast with the secondary staff, a table of people who do not ask questions because asking questions here is its own kind of illness. 8:30 a.m., kitchen briefing. You review the day's menu with head chef Bake, a small precise man with burned fingertips and the effect of someone who stopped feeling surprise long ago. You have not spoken to your family in 9 weeks. Not because you are forbidden, technically, you may make supervised calls, but because the calls are logged, and whatever you say from inside this building sounds wrong the moment you open your mouth. Your mother asks how you are. You say fine. You hear the silence on her end that means she knows something has changed and is too frightened to ask what. One evening, after a dinner service, you are clearing your notation from the tasting room when you see a shadow pass outside the high window on the service corridor. The window faces an interior courtyard. No one should be in the courtyard at 9 p.m. You watch the shadow. The shadow does not move. Then it does. You write nothing in the logbook about this. This is the moment you understand the real cost of your position. It is not fear. Fear you can manage. The cost is the habit of not speaking. The cost is how naturally silence comes now, how quickly your instinct shifted from tell someone to note it and move on. You have been here 4 months and you are already fluent in the language of looking away. The shadow was probably nothing. You do not entirely believe that. But you write nothing. And that is how it starts. You learn things you were not supposed to learn. This is inevitable in a closed system. Information does not stay still. It migrates. In the 7th month, you are in the secondary prep room waiting for the 11-minute window to close when you hear voices through the ventilation seam in the wall. 2 men. One voice you recognize, Deputy Chief of Protocol Rim, who manages the Marshal's social calendar and wears his authority like a coat that doesn't quite fit. The other voice is lower. You catch fragments. The taster sees too much. Not Choi's decision anymore. Handled before the summit preparations. The 11-minute window closes. You initial the logbook. Your hand does not shake. You have trained your hand not to shake. You walk back to your room and sit with the words rearranging themselves in your head until they form a shape you cannot unfold. Handled. You turn it over. Handled could mean reassigned. Handled could mean promoted. In this building, handled means one thing, and you are intelligent enough and honest enough with yourself to know which meaning applies here. What you do next tells you something about who you have become. You do not report it. You do not seek Choi's counsel. You do not write it down where it can be found. You file it. You tuck it into the interior pocket of the person you are building, the one who survives inside this system, who keeps his eyes open and his mouth closed, who notes what he sees and decides later what to do with it. Loyalty is how they sell this role to you. You are realizing it is really just a longer lease on your own life, with terms that can be renegotiated without your signature. There are 47 days between the conversation in the ventilation seam and the next time you see Deputy Rim. He passes you in the corridor outside the Marshal's private dining room. He meets your eyes for exactly 1 second. His face is a flat wall. You give him nothing back. 2 professionals exchanging nothing. You walk past and the hair on your forearms rises and you keep walking. That evening you taste a dish you cannot identify. Braised something in a dark reduction, rich, complex, unfamiliar. You eat the prescribed portion. You sit in the white room. You count the clock. At minute 6, there is a pressure behind your left eye that may be the beginning of something or maybe the ambient stress of sitting in a white room waiting to find out if today is the last day. By minute 9 it is gone. You initial the logbook. You eat the rest of the dish at your desk later and it is excellent. Venison. You think. The shadow is back in the courtyard on a Tuesday. This time you watch it for 3 minutes before it moves. This time you recognize the silhouette. It is one of the outer ring Purdue staff, a young man named Co who has never once looked at you directly at any shared meal. He is standing very still and then he is gone. You note the time, 8:47 p.m., in the small notebook you keep inside your uniform sleeve. Not the official logbook. The private one. You started the private notebook on day 12 of this assignment. You were not told to. No one knows about it. It is 12 pages of precise, emotionless notation, times, names, behavioral anomalies, overheard fragments. If someone finds it, you are finished. If someone moves against you and you have no record, you are also finished. You have done the arithmetic. The notebook is the lesser risk. This is the calculation that now passes for moral reasoning in your life. CO is arrested on a Wednesday morning. You learn this from the kitchen's collective silence at the 8:30 briefing. The specific silence that happens when someone has been removed, and speaking about it is the second most dangerous thing you can do, the most dangerous being whatever got the person removed. Head chef Bake's face reveals nothing except that he has filed the information and moved on, the same thing everyone in this room does. That afternoon, Choi calls you to his office. He tells you that CO was passing tasting room logs to a foreign intelligence contact. The story is clean and complete the way stories are when someone has decided what the story should be before they tell it to you. He watches your face while he talks. You give him attentiveness, mild professional concern, no surprise. The right amount of everything. Then he says, you were observed taking notes in an unofficial capacity. Your blood goes cold and still, like the kitchen air. Personal wellness entries, you say. Medical notations. I wanted a personal record of any physical symptoms from the tasting protocol. I should have disclosed it. I apologize for the informality. Choi looks at you for 7 seconds. You count them. Destroy it, he says. From this point, any personal notation is submitted to the medical office and logged officially. You nod. You say yes. You leave. You do not destroy the notebook. You memorize it over 2 nights and then you burn it in the bathroom with the fan running, flushing the ash. You carry the contents in your memory now, which is not safer, but it is invisible. They can search a room. They cannot yet search what is stored behind your eyes. Someone told Choi about the notebook. You run the list of people who could have known. It is a short list. One name keeps rising to the top. The choice arrives on a Thursday, like all terrible things, unremarkably, between 2 ordinary moments. Choi presents it in the language of opportunity. A position has opened. The marshal requires a secondary liaison, someone trusted, someone already inside the circle, someone who can serve as both taster and administrative interface. You would have access you have never had. You would attend briefings. You would hold information. You would be, in the vocabulary of this place, essential. The word lands like a key turning. You understand the offer precisely. Essential means protected. Essential also means complicit in things the outer ring never witnesses. Essential means the version of you that kept the private notebook, that clocked shadows in the courtyard, that kept some interior room locked against this system, that version begins its slow disappearance. You look at Choi's face. He is not asking you. He has already made the decision. This is a courtesy notification. You can accept it now or you can accept it after a conversation that will be less comfortable for everyone. You think about your mother's silence on the phone. You think about the shadow in the courtyard and CO's empty chair. You think about the 11-minute window and the pressure behind your left eye at minute 6 that was probably nothing. You say yes. The version of you that hesitated at that dinner rehearsal, that set the fork down before thinking, that gave yourself away with a single instinctive gesture, that person is still in there somewhere. Smaller now. Quieter. You note this the way you note everything. Flatly. Without commentary. The briefings happen in a room on the residential complex's 2nd floor. You sit at a table with 4 other men whose names you learn and immediately understand you should never use aloud outside that room. You review itineraries. Travel schedules. Medical advisories. You are told which visiting delegations require separate food chains. You are told things about the marshal's preferences, his aversions, his patterns, details that are both intimate and clinical, the way information becomes when it has been stripped of affection and turned into infrastructure. You are good at this. This is the part that sits uneasily, the discovery that you are genuinely competent here. Your instincts translate perfectly. The same precision that made you push a plate away at a rehearsal dinner, the same sensory architecture, makes you exceptional at this level of work. You notice things. You retain things. You connect information that others leave unconnected. Within 6 months, 2 of the 4 men at the table defer to your analysis. You eat better than anyone in the country outside this compound. You sleep in a room with Western plumbing and a mattress that cost more than your childhood home. You have not been in love since before this assignment. You had a photograph of a woman, someone from the administrative office, before, that you kept in your wallet. Somewhere in the second year you realized you had stopped looking at it. You looked for it one evening and could not remember which drawer you'd put it in. You did not spend long looking. The marshal sits at the long table and the light catches the side of his face and he is, in this moment, simply a man eating a bowl of rice porridge with pickled vegetables and a soft-boiled egg. You have watched him eat hundreds of times now. You have tasted his food, monitored his patterns, protected him from threats he will never know existed. He has spoken to you directly 11 times in 3 years. Each time you have given him exactly what the moment required and nothing more. Today the rice porridge has been prepared with a modification. Not by the kitchen. You discovered it in the logistics chain 3 days ago, a substitution at the outer ring level, an ingredient variance that could be accidental and almost certainly is not. You have documented it. You have the chain mapped. You know who authorized it and who that person reports to and what that person's removal would mean for the small equilibrium you have helped to construct inside this system. The porridge sits in front of him. You have tasted it. You are still here. The modification is almost certainly inert. Almost. You could act on what you know. Report upward, trigger the investigation, expose the chain. This is your function. This is what they built you for. Or you could hold it. Leverage is the only currency that doesn't devalue inside a closed system. What you know today might be the thing that keeps you alive in a month when someone decides essential has expired. The marshal lifts his spoon. You decide. You do what the version of you that walked into that first kitchen 3 years ago would not have predicted. You do it cleanly, without drama, with the flat professional competence that has become the only self you know how to be. You report it. Not because it is right. Because it is useful. That distinction used to matter. Now it is just a fact, filed alongside the others. You leave the compound on a gray Tuesday in March. Not in a black car. Not in custody. You are reassigned, a polite word for the managed exit of someone who has become too embedded to keep but too knowing to simply release. A consultative role. A different city. Access revoked in gradients so gradual you almost don't notice until one day your key card no longer opens the second-floor briefing room, and then the corridor, and then finally the gate. You stand outside the compound wall in civilian clothes that feel like a costume. The street is loud in a way you had forgotten streets are loud. A child runs past. A vendor sells something fried that fills the air with smoke and the smell of ordinary life and you stand there breathing it for longer than makes sense. You think about the photograph you stopped looking for. The notebook you burned. The 11-minute window. The shadow in the courtyard. The spoon lifting above a bowl of rice porridge. You think about who you were when you pushed a plate away without thinking. The person who gave himself away with his face. You look for him. Somewhere behind your eyes, in the locked room you used to keep. The room is there. The door is there. The person is not. You walk down the street. You get on a bus. You sit by the window and watch the city pass and it looks the same as it always did from the outside, which is the thing about cities like this, about systems like this, they look exactly the same from the outside. You have to be let in to see the machinery. Somewhere in the compound, a corridor runs underground from the kitchen to the dining hall. Fluorescent lights hum above steel countertops. A door opens. Someone new walks through, led by a man in a dark jacket who is explaining the role in the careful measured language of inevitability. The new person's hands are flat at their sides. Their face is doing the right things. They are listening. They have no idea. They'll learn. They always do. The cycle begins.